Hi, this is Adobe FuseCC, and we are going to import this female humanoid character into Unreal Engine 4. We are going to do it the quick and easy way as detailed in this online tutorial. The link will be in the description. And this particular character assembly will also be available in the description. This is made using the basic ingredients available when you install Adobe FuseCC, although you can see I have some custom things here that have been migrated from the previous version, Adobe Fuse 1.3. This character here is completely feasible with the basic components of FuseCC. There are a few important details that you may want to check before rigging your character with Mixamo, and I will show them to you now. The first detail is here around the lower part of the legs. You don't want these pants to intersect at all, otherwise the Mixamo rigging will glue them together and it will not animate correctly. So you want to make sure that the legs stay separate, clearly separate one from the other, all the way down. And another thing is the face. So let's have a look at the face of the character. As you can see, this is a non-standard face with rather large eyes, small mouth, small nose, and we want to make sure that this face deforms correctly when the character will blink or smile and so on. So let's go to customize, and the face is here. We can open the mouth. As you can see, the teeth are at the right height for the lips, and we also can make her happy. This looks correct. We can basically here we just want to check that where nothing too scary happens. The rigging here inside Fuse before it's passed to Mixamo is very far from perfect. It will look much better once it's rigged with Mixamo, so you should not be concerned about these polygons here, for example. This is part of the upper lip that sticks behind. This will not happen once you rig the character with Mixamo. That's good to know. And another thing that needs to be checked is whether the eyeballs and the eyelids intersect during blinking, squinting, and so on. Let's reset all this and go to the head. So we have the eyes. We want them to look fine both when we open them all the way up. No intersection here, no intersection there, no garbled polygons. Seems okay. And then we want to make them more closed, and here also we see no bad intersection. There. So we reset this to 0, and let's try exporting this character. Just click the big Send to Mixamo button, choose the name, let's call her Not Kanako, and you get a message about the character being packaged locally into a format expected by the Mixamo rigging service, and then it tells us that it sends the file to the server, and we just wait for it. Now it's sending. Now the character has been uploaded. It tells us that it's great that we uploaded it using Fuse, and in fact they are right to say this, because when we do it like this, the dialog is different from when you upload your character in a generic way from the main Mixamo website. When you upload from the main website by providing a generic obj or FBX file, you don't get to pick the facial shapes, so your character won't have any facial animation. It won't be able to speak, smile or blink and have emotions. But here we will be able to have not only the animation of the arms, legs, limbs and head and so on, but also we will have those facial blend shapes or morph targets. Let's pick the standard skeleton here. By the way, if you don't have an Adobe account, well, first of all, you won't be using FuseCC, because the installation sort of requires you to register an account with Adobe. And second, Mixamo will not let you do this unless you log in. So here in the upper corner, in the upper right corner, you see that I am logged in. If you are not logged in, then at some point or other you will be asked to enter your identification and password for the Adobe account. Okay, I'm sorry for the waiting time, but it looks like we are done. Now we have the standard skeleton here. We have those facial blend shapes. This standard skeleton, the 65 bones, include some unneeded bones that don't have any mesh points attached to them. There's a bone at the top of the head, there's a bone at the tip of each finger, and there are 2 more bones at the toes. Those bones are not needed, but since we are going to import them directly into Unreal, well, we'll just have to live with them, because in Unreal Editor you cannot remove any bones from the skeleton. It has asked us to choose to accept this character as the new character of our Mixamo account. Then we download it in the FBX and T-pose. And we save it anywhere. And that's done. Now we are opening an Unreal project. In this case, it's going to be a new project in third person. This is our project, and we will create a new folder for the character. Call it not Konoko. And we have this file here. The size is about 15 megabytes. That's because all the textures, all those texture layers are actually embedded in the FBX file, and we don't have any texture files beside it. Now we want to pick the skeleton as none, and we also want to import the morph targets if we are going to do facial animation on the character. Everything else is okay as it is. You click import and then wait for a while, because like I said, the character has about half a dozen materials and about 4 or 5 textures for each material, and the textures are a rather large resolution. And well, also it takes a while to import all of the morph targets for the facial animation. It has 50 different morph targets for the face. So this is our error message window. We can see all those extraneous bones that are not useful in any way, but we'll have to live with them because we can't remove them inside Unreal Editor. We also don't have smoothing groups, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And also we have some vertices that are weighted to multiple bones. There is an influence truncation. In this case, it removes the weakest bones from the weights of this vertex. In this case, it's ignored very small weights, which are as good as 0, so there's no problem at all. The character should still look okay when animated. There we have the character. The shaders are still rendering. The materials are here. There are 4 materials here and 2 others at the end because of the alphabetical order, and there is quite a bit of textures. I will come back when the shader is done compiling, so you can see what the problems are and how we fix them. Okay, at this point all the materials and textures have rendered. Now we are going to open this character and all the materials in the editor. Let's put it over there. This was a hair material, then glove material, bottom material, body material, shoes material, and top material. So we have 6 materials and the mesh itself. Let's have a look. If we look at the character, you'll see that it has a very weird look because of transparency. You can see through the skin, and you can see through the hair, and all those objects are fighting for transparency. So the pants look more or less okay, but then you can see that the pants here are showing through in front of the gun, although the gun should be in front, and so on. This is all because Unreal sort of sucks at transparent materials. It doesn't properly sort them according to the depth, to the distance between the polygons and the camera. So transparent materials actually should be avoided, and they are all imported by default as transparent materials because Fuse and Mixamo configure those textures, those materials with an opacity channel. As you can see, for example, in the hair material here, it is set up as translucent, and this here is a grayscale texture with certain levels of gray. It's not just black and white. It is a gradual transition between black and white with shades of gray, and this kind of transparency does not turn out well when there are a lot of objects sharing that property. What works better is this opacity mask. So you have to change the material, select the material here and change it from translucent to masked, and then you need to redirect this opacity texture into this opacity mask input. This the big change is that opacity mask works as a black or white, so it is a thresholding this grayscale image, and every pixel of the texture in the end will be either transparent or not transparent, but there are no in-betweens. This will look slightly coarser, more crude than the transparent hair with grayscale definition of the alpha channel, but it will be more robust in terms of transparency rendering, and the transparent objects will appear one in front of the other in the order that you expect, and there will be none of that weirdness that we see here. So after you configure it like this is still rendering, but we'll just save this and wait until and do the same procedure for all the other materials, and then we'll come back to look at the character after these changes are done. Here you can see, unlike in the tutorial that I linked to, we are not going to change anything about the gloss channel. Here, let me move those things around a bit. This is the diffuse channel of the hair. It's purple. It goes into base color. Then there you have the normals. This is the opacity mask that we have directed to the opacity mask input. This is the specular channel, which does what you think it does, and the gloss is by default directed to metallic. The tutorial says to direct it to roughness, but this is a matter of taste. I'm just we're going to let it like this for now. And we have to do exactly the same operation for the body material because it has transparency for the eyelashes. So we go here, the body material, we set it to masked. You break the link at opacity and direct the texture sample with opacity to opacity mask, and everything else we leave as is. So the specular goes to specular, gloss goes to metallic, and the diffuse color goes to base color. And we save it as well. Have I clicked the save button on the hair mat? I'm not sure. Anyway, since this is a slow computer with not a lot of memory, I'm just going to pause here and come back. Done computing. It's done computing and saving the body material. I'm going to save the hair material now. This shows you how it looks. It doesn't have a smooth transition between transparent and non-transparent areas. Instead, it's just either transparent or not transparent. And well, that's how it has to be, because otherwise it doesn't have the proper rendering order. When there are a lot of hair strands or eyelashes or other transparent objects in the scene at the same time. So we'll wait for this hair to save, and then we will look at the character again. Okay, we look at the character, and then we see that we don't have any more weirdness around the eyes, and the skin and the hair look reasonably transparent. Let's have a closer look at the face here. Okay, well, you see it's not that there are no smooth transitions, but it looks good enough, and that's the only way I know of to have transparent hair. So the hair strands don't have a smooth transition at the edge, but at least they are rendered in all the right order. Two more things that we need to change about the materials. Well, first, we haven't done those other materials here. The gloves, the t-shirt, the pants, and the shoes all need to have the material set to fully opaque, because they don't have any transparency at all. So we have to completely disconnect the opacity and turn them to completely non-transparent materials, and this will get rid of this weird problem here that it's rendered backwards. And the other thing is those materials that are transparent, need to be made two-sided, both the hair and the body, because of the eyelashes. And yes, the third thing that we need to change about all of the materials is here. If we are going to use the morph targets, facial animation, and don't want to see this complaint, we need to add morph support to all the materials. To click a box that's titled Use with Morph Targets. So let's go back, for example, to our hair material here, and somewhere in the material we will find the usage here, the usage section, and we go and find Used with Morph Targets. After we click this, we need to save, and we have to wait a while as usual, and we need to do the same for all the other materials apart from making the shoes, t-shirt, pants and gloves non-transparent, and then we will be done. Now we do the same for the body, the material, at the end the usage, used with morph targets, and save. And now we do all the other materials. Actually, I'm not going to save those materials anymore. I'm just going to do all the changes and then save everything in one go. We don't need this texture sample in the blueprint because, well, we don't have any actual transparency, so we delete it. Now we go to bottom material. We also set it to opaque, and we also delete this texture. Now we go to shoes, same thing here. Opaque, and delete the texture. And the top material, also opaque, and also delete the texture. Now the materials are done. Did we do the gloves? Yes. Did we do the bottom? Yes. The shoes and the top. And for all those materials, the 4 of them, we also need to modify the usage here. So use with morph targets is the 4th one from the bottom. Bottom matte, same here. Select the material, find this one, use with morph targets, shoes, use with morph targets, top material, sorry, the material itself, and then use with morph targets. Now we have this checkbox clicked everywhere, and we should be getting no more complaints in this. Those two hair material and body material have already been saved, and the other 4 haven't been saved yet, which is why we're still getting this warning message here. So let's maybe at this point we will do the little change to the skeleton. We want to be able to retarget the animations of the mannequin, this third-person animation blueprint, to this character, and in order to do this we need to put this character in the A pose. The tutorial that I linked to does the opposite. It puts the mannequin, the basic Unreal 4 mannequin, into this T pose, but I consider it just as fitting to put this character in the pose to match the rest pose of the mannequin, and not the other way around. So here, if we are good at clicking, Okay, you see, it's not so easy. We have to raise those to open those legs by 5 degrees. What the tutorial doesn't tell you is that those feet need to be compensated in the same way, and actually in this case we'll have to rotate them by, I think, as much of 10 degrees inwards, because the original mesh has two clicks. We rotated them by 10 degrees, 2, and if you have a careful look at the sole of the feet, you'll see that this is kind of the right angle. Or maybe, yeah, maybe not so much. Let's maybe just those 5 compensation degrees are fine. Let's rotate them back. So we have opened the thighs by 5 degrees sideways and compensated for the feet so that they stand on the ground correctly. Now we need to do the arms, and the arms will be done like this. We'll select the forearms first. One thing I hate about Unreal is that the clicking is not very accurate. 2, 3, 4, 20 degrees, and this the arms are lowered by 45 degrees. Why would it $20 and 45? So this is the A pose of the mannequin. We can hide the skeleton to get a better view. This looks more or less correct, and for the sake of this tutorial, this will be sufficient. And we go to modify pose for the skeleton of this character and say use current pose. Here we may want to click apply to asset, and we want to map the bones to the humanoid rig. So maybe just we are feeling lucky. Auto mapping doesn't give us much because it incorrectly assigns many bones. Once you have this, you go through all of these bones and pick the correct correspondence. Yeah, this is already the correct correspondence for the spine. Left shoulder is correct. Upper arm is okay. This is left forearm, left arm, forearm, hand, right shoulder, right arm. This is the forearm here, neck, head. This is correct. Well, you can see that those correspondences are a little bit random. It would have helped if we had processed the FBX file from Mixamo and changed just the names to make it easier for Unreal to detect the correspondence between the bones. This is obviously left upper leg, and this is not the right leg but the left leg. This is the left foot. This is the right upper leg. This is the right leg, and this is the right foot. And those are all the basic bones. If we want to go into the advanced ones, then it's a lot more of drop lists and clicks. come back after all those assignments are done. So you need to remove all those bones that the Mixamo skeleton doesn't have. So all those IK bones are missing, all the twist bones are missing as well. So you remove all those, and as for the toes, the correct bones for this is right toe base, and this is left toe base, and all those twist bones and IK bones are missing. So let's remove this, let's remove this, let's remove the calf twist. Now we have a bunch of fingers up there. The right thumb, this one here. Basically, yeah. So it's a really long and tedious process, and it would really help to have an automatic converter of some kind, even for this simple situation, that renames all the bones of the Mixamo character FBX, so that they have an intuitive name for Unreal, and so that the automatic mapping directly gives you the right correspondence. Otherwise there is a lot of well, double work. Okay, all the bones have been mapped correctly at this point. This is definitely the longest and most frustrating part of this relatively simple importing process. Ideally, this is not at all how it should be done. We should have an automatic tool that changes the FBX file after Mixamo and before Unreal 4, and just changes the bone names so that the correspondence is established automatically. So everything here, the custom bones, the inverse kinematics bones are missing, the thigh twist and calf twist are missing, the ball of the left foot and the ball of the right foot are assigned to left toe base and right toe base respectively, and all the fingers are assigned as they should be, and the twist bones are missing, as I may have already said. The important thing here is that you need to click Add New Target Source and select the mesh. Here, this skeleton is now ready for retargeting, and we need to save it, and we need to save all those materials. And something I forgot to mention earlier is that the transparent materials, both the hair and the body, needs to have this two-sided checkbox checked, otherwise it will not appear correctly. Now we save all those materials. It may take a while. You have to save those materials individually from this editor. If you click the Save All button from the main project window, it may not actually save the materials, and their appearance in game and on the actual character will not be correct. So you just have to click through all those 6 materials and the skeleton and save and wait. And we will see how it works after this is all done. After we have saved all the materials, we can go to Mesh View and check that the transparency of all the materials is as expected. We have correct appearance for all of those body parts that should not be transparent, and we have obviously two-sided behavior for the hair. Those strands are clearly two-sided, and also for the eyelashes. Here we look at the eyelashes from the inside of the eye, and now we are looking at the top eyelash from above, and those strands are clearly rendered as two-sided. Now we can also have a look at the the morph targets. Let's see how this works. These are all the available morph targets. As you can see, there is a lot of them, 50 to be precise, and they are not combined into any kind of ready-made expressions. That means that if you are going to make the character speak or give her some non-trivial facial expression, you will need to go here, choose the elements from which your expression will be composed, and dial in the right amount for each element of the combination. This is not very convenient, but at least you can combine anything using all those elements. Let me show you some examples. For example, here we can make the character blink all the way, blink halfway. It looks reasonably good. We can also make wider eyes wide here. Let's widen it all the way to 1. This looks reasonable, but as you can see, there is a relatively small distance between the eyeball and the edge of the lower eyelid. That means that we may run into overlapping problems for some facial animations. Let me show you an example of that happening, and I will tell you how to fix it. So here, squint right. If we select this one and dial in all the way to 1, you can see that this looks okay mostly, but there is an overlap. If we move in closer, then we can see that clearly the lower eyelid overlaps with the eyeball in this region. This can be fixed by going back to Fuse and doing some more careful modeling on the face, trying to make sure that there is a sufficiently large safe distance between the eyeball and the lower eyelid, even for such squinting configurations of the eye. And this is the way to fix it, by going back to Fuse. For now, I will just pretend that everything works fine. This is just for demonstrating the basic functionality of the morph targets. We can also modify the mouth, of course. This is an open mouth. We can make her smile. We can make her smile with both corners of the mouth. We can add something to the nose. There. So this is just basic facial animation with all those morph targets that are available from Mixamo. And it's quite powerful, really. Now we are going to make this character playable. We have already done the necessary here by setting up the A pose and selecting the humanoid rig and making a retarget source. Now we just need to go to the mannequin skeleton and to make sure that it has the humanoid rig as well, so that we can establish a correspondence between the two of them. This is how we do it. We go to the main project window, look up the character, mesh, and open the mannequin skeleton for editing. We can see that by default this here is set to none, and we need to select the humanoid rig, and all the bones are automatically assigned to the correct parts of the skeleton. So we just need to save the skeleton now, close everything here. Now for the retargeting itself, we go to mannequin animations, third person animation blueprint, right click, retarget, and duplicate animation and retarget. Here we need to pick the right target skeleton. As soon as you can see this, the character appearing here with the correct A pose, that means the retargeting will be successful. After the retargeting, you see a new blueprint and half a dozen animations. There isn't a lot of them because this is the default third-person project. There really aren't that many animations. So, as instructed by the tutorial that I linked to, we should rename the blueprint by adding something, I don't know, here, like this. This is useful because if we click this character here, let me put it this way. This is a playable character. We need to change the mesh to not canonical, but if for the animations to work correctly, for running around and jumping and such, it needs to have the correct blueprint as well, and the blueprint is selected here from this drop-down list, and there are no pictures, and there is no way of telling if third-person animation blueprint and is any different from this third-person animation blueprint, and it only works because we have renamed it. Now, after we click this, we have done the blueprint retargeting, we have changed the mesh, we have changed the animation class. The character has appeared in place of a third-person playable character with the right non-trivial animation, the idle animation. That means that we should be able to run around this with this character with no problems. And indeed, there we are. He jumps, runs around, and so on. The character works as expected, and if we walk up to a wall, we should be able to see the transparency on the hair and the eyelashes. There we are. The tutorial is now complete, and I will now say a few things that are not perfect with this approach and why we should consider other ways to get characters into Unreal Engine 4. The most basic limitation of this approach is that the skeleton is missing inverse kinematic bones. So just as we are unable to delete all those useless bones from the skeleton, the top of the head, the tips of the fingers, and the end of the toes, we are unable to add new bones to the skeleton. That is, we are unable to make this character compatible with advanced locomotion systems and elaborate gameplay. That means that if we are just looking for a basic character that's running around, that's fine, but if we want to have an elaborate game, then we might want to edit this skeleton somehow. And that means that either we will have to use a 3D program and do some manual work on the skeleton, or we should have an automatic tool that takes the FBX file from Mixamo and processes it, so that before importing into Unreal Engine 4 it has corrected properties, for example, different bone names, additional IK bones, maybe those extra bones should be deleted, other minor changes. So there is no way to get an elaborate character compatible with advanced locomotion systems using this simple, quick, and relatively straightforward process. And of course, another limitation is when we placed this new character into the A pose of the standard mannequin of Unreal Engine 4, we rotated the limbs in increments of 5 degrees, the thighs by 5 degrees, the feet by 5 degrees, the upper arms by 45 and the lower arms by 20. But there is absolutely no reason for the angles to be exactly multiples of 5 degrees. So we did something that looks reasonably similar to the A pose of the mannequin, but it is not exactly a matching pose. It's just something that works well enough. So ultimately, if we are going to make an exact matching between this character and the mannequin, we need to go into a 3D editor and do some more precise work on the skeleton, something that we cannot do here because it just doesn't work in the general case in increments of 5 degrees. So there. Because of this inaccuracy and that the fact that we don't have an exact match, maybe the character doesn't look completely natural when animated with the mannequin's animations. So next we are going to do a tutorial about how to do this completely right and to have a flawless character that has inverse kinematics for the feet and a completely flawless skeleton and so on. So till next time, bye bye.